Hi everyone, this is Dr. Allison DeBardo-Goggin with Little Black Bag Medicine, and tonight our class topic is PCOS solutions. So we're going to be talking a lot about women's hormones, we're going to talk about some of the causes, and a lot more about the solutions that you can look to when we're dealing with polycystic ovary syndrome. So PCOS is a hormone disorder that occurs in women who have trouble processing different hormones, especially insulin and testosterone. It is so common, so many women have it, and it's mostly characterized by hair on the face, unwanted areas, where you have really weird cycles where you're not getting your period or it's just spotting all month, like you never know what's going on. That's really common. Your skin is really greasy, and something like 1 out of 10 women are affected by this. And when I was looking at Pinterest, because I'm always on Pinterest, it's one of my favorite places, that there's all of these cute little meme cards, and it really was apparent to me how sad and dire the situation is, especially with September being PCOS Awareness Month, that women feel hopeless. They don't want to get on Facebook because there's so many pregnancy announcements and they're wondering when it's going to happen for them, or they're accepting that pregnancy and fertility is not an option for them, or that they're crazy and their hormones will always make them crazy and they'll never have a relationship because they can't manage who they are. And then this is just the way it is. I'm stuck this way forever. All there was is no cure, no cure, no cure, no cure. And that was so depressing for me because I work with women all the time who suffer from PCOS. And it's not simple to work with this situation. I don't want to call it the disease. I'm not going to say it's incurable. I'm not going to say there is a cure because I can't do that either, but that doesn't mean you can't work with your body's natural state to figure out what's actually going on for you, figure out what the source is, and then work with that source because it is a little different for everyone. And PCOS sometimes can be a blanket diagnosis for women. Throw them on birth control and metformin and hope that helps. Maybe they'll lose a few pounds. And that's the other thing I keep hearing from women is, oh, my doctor just told me to lose weight and my PCOS will go away. But the problem is that it's really difficult to lose weight when you have any hormone issue at all because the body can't process sugar, and the insulin and testosterone and cortisol, all of those things don't allow your body to lose weight. So you're really just running women in these cycles that they can't control, that they don't have resources on how to control these things. So let's talk about where this system comes from. So number one is it can be genetic. So if there's women in your family who struggle with hormones, infertilities, PCOS symptoms, that it is very likely that that will be genetic. The other thing that also passes down genetically is insulin resistance. Now we know today that epigenetic studies, meaning that the way our genes can turn off and on, is very, very powerful, and that we're not stuck with all of the genes that we have. Something like only 8% are the way that they are. Everything else can be manipulated or controlled or worked with in a way to bring your body back to health. So when we say genetic, that doesn't mean you're stuck that way. That just means that it's something to look for, because if you can fix your genes, you will be able to support your children's genes. And what's really cool is when you think about genetics and what influences our genes, we have a lot of control right now. And so what I like to tell women is that their genetic disposition was determined when they were an egg inside their mom when their grandmother was pregnant. So whatever your grandmother experienced when she was pregnant with your mom, because women are directly born with all the eggs that they'll ever have for their whole life. So when you're born as a woman, any baby that you'll have is already in you. So your egg was in your mom when she was inside your grandma. Like, that's crazy. That's mind-blowing, because whatever your grandma experienced had a direct influence on the genes that were present in your egg when she was pregnant with your mom. And then let alone what your mom went through for her entire lifetime and when she was pregnant with you. So there's a lot of unknown influences that we have to work with, which is why I like to do the testing, which is why so many people are running to 23andMe, because it's such an easy way to figure out which genes you need to work with, which is genetic, which is hereditary, and how to fix that. So let's keep moving on, right? So other causes include hormone imbalances, which is testosterone typically is way too high. Some women, and with female hormones, we never know where they stand. So women who aren't having periods are typically have too little estrogen. Women who are just constantly bleeding and it's excessive and have painful breasts, fibrocystic breasts, a lot of times that means their estrogen is too high. So to me, this tells me that I can't just say, oh, you have PCOS, just take these supplements and you'll be fine. That's the same as giving someone birth control, because we don't actually know what's going on with them. So we have to figure out where your hormones stand and why they stand that way. So is it coming from your ovaries? Is it coming from your thyroid? Is it coming from your adrenals from too much stress? And remember, all those hormones get turned over or conjugated in our liver. So if your liver is backed up because of medications or alcohol, toxins, mold, genetics, you name it, poor diet, that will directly affect how your body processes hormones and gets rid of them. Insulin resistance is another symptom, another sign, but it can also be a cause. So sometimes for some women, it starts in correcting the insulin resistance through diet and lifestyle and supplements and supporting the cells and supporting the pancreas and making insulin. So it does become a chicken or the egg. And once we do this testing and figure out what's going on with your body, you don't have to play the game anymore of chasing supplements or chasing pills or chasing the next diet fad, because you'll know exactly what's going on and why it's going on for you. And then the last one that we talk about in functional medicine is inflammation, which is, again, a blanket term. So it's not my favorite one to just throw out there, is because you can name any disease and say it's because of inflammation, but that is a really strong factor in how our entire body makes hormones, processes hormones, how our cells accept hormones. So a lot of women also struggle with thyroid disease on top of that. Some women struggle with cholesterol issues on top of that. And I'm here to say that the cholesterol is actually not a significant issue, because having higher levels of cholesterol, we're looking at the 230s range, typically means that your brain is more protective. You're going to have better cognition. You're going to have a better base to make hormones. So getting on a statin or doing something just to lower your cholesterol is actually going to harm your hormones in the long run. So again, the goal is to figure out what the cause is and what that core diagnosis is. So I'm going to scroll through my notes, because, I mean, what causes insulin resistance? We all know our poor diets do, and I think that's the hardest part to nail down, is because when we don't feel good emotionally, physically, hormonally, we reach for those crappy foods. We reach for foods that satiate us. We reach for the foods that spike our blood sugar so we get that good feeling for a few minutes, and then we crash and we burn. So eating too many carbs, low muscle mass, so not working out enough, is a huge problem. Yes, having too much adipose or too much fat tissue can cause insulin resistance, and that's something that once you figure out how you get your cells to function at a really good level, that insulin resistance will let up and the fat will come with it. Most commonly, nutrient deficiencies, including chromium, zinc, and selenium, can lead to insulin resistance, as well as lack of sleep and too much stress, because that is going to affect your cortisol, which affects how well your cells accept insulin and sugar, or if they're going to take it and use it for immediate energy, or if they're going to take that fat and sugar and put it into cells for storage. So we want to make sure, number one, the easiest solution is to get your diet under control. And now that's really easy to say sitting here, and I know that because I tried for the past year to lose weight and get my diet under control, and it was, but it wasn't the right way for me. So my husband started doing intermittent fasting in January, and I just saw, and I love intermittent fasting. I just love, 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 love it. The research on it is amazing. I talked about it all the time. I shared all my books and my I'm like, oh, give me fasting all day long. And I was really good at it too. And after about 2.5 weeks, my body tanked. But what happened for my husband is, well, he lost like 40 pounds and he feels amazing and it works great for him. So when it comes to diet, I definitely think we need outside help because we don't really recognize those little cheats that we do, or we think, oh, it's not so bad, or we saw this thing on Pinterest and it said to eat a fruit and bagel in the morning, and when that's actually what is causing our insulin resistance. So I strongly suggest having someone help look at your diet, help you plan, which is something I can do. I work with a number of dietitians, and that is going to be part of my PCOS program and hormone reset program for you that I'm going to talk about coming on Friday. Or if you have any questions about that right now, you can always message me and I'll get back to you tonight. But again, getting outside help to look at your diet is the most important, because once you can help that insulin resistance, that's going to decrease the inflammation, which is going to help take care of everything else. And then all you're going to have left over is hormones, and those can be really easy to fix too. So we want to talk a little bit about progesterone too, because progesterone is something that's really important, but it's important in a balance, and that is what helps us get pregnant and stay pregnant. And so for a lot of women who suffer with infertility on any level and for any reason, they have no idea where their hormones stand. And so most women will go and do a blood test, which tests for bound hormones, and the ranges on that are outrageous. So they're like 0 to 8,000, you're normal, and their doctors say they're fine, and they don't know why they can't get pregnant, or maybe your testosterone's a little too high. And that's it. And it's a one-hit blood test, so you're guessing where you are in your cycle. So the easiest solution for that at home is to take your morning basal temperature every morning as soon as you wake up and chart it. There are so many free apps that you can use. I use Kindara. I think it's free. It doesn't matter. There's so many that you can use. Kindara actually has a thermometer, a Bluetooth thermometer, which is awesome. I actually can't wait to get it, that you take your temperature with and it automatically sends it to your app on your phone. So what you do, here's the rules, is that as soon as you wake up in the morning, your alarm goes off, you hit it, you take your thermometer, do an oral temperature. So you want a basal thermometer, which you can get at any store, but it has to be BASAL. They sell them at Target, Walgreens, Walmart. Get them anywhere because it's so much more specific. So it does take a little bit longer. It's not a fast thermometer because it's getting that basal metabolic rate. And in the first half of your cycle, so the day your period starts, day 1, to the day you ovulate, your temperature will be lower. So in the low 98s or the high 97, so 97.4 and up. When you ovulate, your temperature will spike that next morning. So you say you ovulate today, tomorrow morning when you wake up, you're going to have a higher temperature. Now it's not going to be 99, it's going to jump just a few point something degrees. So you might go from 97.4 to 98.0, but it's enough that when you look at the app or you track it on paper, you'll see that jump. And then for the rest of the month, your temperature should stay high, and then it will drop and you'll start your period. So what a lot of women don't realize is that that's the easiest. It's free. Well, it's like $6 to get a thermometer, right? So when you track that, one, it tells you if you have thyroid issues, because if your temperature is really low, if you're sitting in the 96s, you probably have a thyroid issue. So that's a great place to start as well when you're looking at hormones. And then if you're not spiking or you're getting multiple spikes, that means either you're not ovulating or you're having some crazy metabolic issue you need to get taken care of. There's a number of things that could be going on. And then in the second half of the cycle, if your progesterone isn't staying high and your temperature isn't staying high, so let's say it peaks and it just stays up and then it drops after 2 days, well, maybe the problem isn't PCOS. Maybe the problem is that your body's not making enough progesterone to keep up a pregnancy. So just taking either a homeopathic can be helpful, using essential oils can be helpful, getting a progesterone cream can be helpful, using a sublingual, a prescription. There's so many things that you can do, but you have to know that your temperature's dropping or what's actually going on in your cycle. So that's the first way. That's the $6 way. Super easy to do. Yes, obviously it takes a month or two. They call it natural family planning. I have a ton of resources on those, so if you want those, shoot me a message. I can get those to you. Very easy to do. I've been doing it for years. Now, the other way to do hormone testing, to know exactly where you are in your cycle, is to do a saliva test. So with the saliva testing, I actually have 2 kits for women who are cycling, so pre-menopause, right? So if you should be getting cycles, if you are getting cycles, if you sometimes get cycles, those are the tests that we're talking about right now. So the more intense test is that you spit in a tube every 3 days, and then you freeze those tubes, and then you mail them all at once. And the reason we like to do this test is because we don't have to guess where you are in your cycle. So just because you're on day 14, that doesn't mean you're ovulating. You could have ovulated on day 10. You could ovulate on day 20. You could never be ovulating. We don't know. So doing those hormone tests throughout the month will give us the best picture of what's actually going on in your body. It looks at LH, FSH, testosterone, the 3 types of estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, everything. So that way we can see what your hormones are actually doing. And what that also means is that we can say, is this a hypothalamus pituitary issue? So is it a brain signaling issue? Is it an ovary issue that your ovaries aren't making the right amounts of hormones? Is it an adrenal issue because stress is just shutting the whole process down? Or is everything great and you're just having an insulin issue and a liver issue? So testing can be, that's a pain in the butt, right? You have to spit in a tube, you have to keep the tubes, it takes a month. Ballpark, it's about $250, and which is really, really cheap. But you're going to get an exact picture of where you are. And it's not something that you have to do every month, because you're going to do a treatment based off of that. Now with the blood test, it's a one shot. Like, you have no idea what day of the month you're on, especially if you're not getting cycles. So we have to figure that out. I do have a 1-day saliva hormone test, which does look at all those things: progesterone, testosterone, the 3 types of estrogen, cortisol, and melatonin. But that one we still have to guess. We still have to say, well, okay, you're in day 16. Maybe you could take your temperature with it so we know where you are, where you stand, and then kind of move forward from there. So those are 2 tests that I like to do. I do like the blood test, the full panel with the full hormone list for PCOS. It does, each one gives us a little bit of a different picture of how the body is functioning and where those sources of those issues are. So again, that's something like I like to do personalized, because I want to see where you are, where you're struggling. Maybe you did have blood tests done and you are great. So it all becomes very personalized when you do functional medicine. When we do the blood tests as well, I do like to do a full insulin panel, blood sugar, hemoglobin A1C, because we also want to rule out that the pancreas is not falling apart, right? That's not the core issue, because again, we have to be able to fix the core issue instead of just saying, here's some birth control or here's some pills and good luck. Because man, once you're on birth control, to manage your cycles, you're going to have to get off at some point. You can't be 80 years old and popping birth control. So once you're on birth control, you have to have a plan to get off of it. If you want to get pregnant, you have to have a plan to get off of it. And the other thing is that for every year that you're on birth control, it's going to take you at least 1 month to detox from that birth control. So I have an actual birth control detox plan, because so many women have these kickback issues from being on birth control for so long, not to mention cervical dysplasia, depression, mood, B vitamin deficiency, vitamin D deficiencies, cholesterol issues, liver toxicity issues. It becomes a very, very big package to try and figure out. Oh, Rian says, my PCOS diagnosis came secondary to hypothyroidism, according to my former endocrinologist. Is PCOS something that is caused by my crap thyroid, or is it its own separate issue? Basically, is it something that would possibly go away by getting thyroid under control? That's a really, really good question. I don't know, because I haven't seen you. So in general, would PCOS clear up if you got your thyroid taken care of? Possibly, because if the thyroid is the answer, then right, yes, that would be most likely what would happen. Now, what else the question then becomes, was causing the hypothyroidism? Is it coming from the brain? Is it coming from the thyroid? Is it coming from the adrenals? So clearing up the cause of the thyroid issue, and then you got to play that chicken and the egg game. So that's a really great question. How do you figure out where is it coming from? Where's the thyroid issue coming from? And will clearing that up fix the PCOS? So that's why I like to do the testing, because it gives us a clearer picture on what is going on in the body and why. I know that wasn't an answer, and I'm sorry. I typically don't have really good specific answers because everyone is so different. So I would like to say, yes, let's clear up the thyroid and the PCOS will clear up. That would probably be a good 65 to 75% chance that would happen. And then the rest would be clearing up the leftover issues, because with women, we're these little onions, right? And we have all these layers that we peel off. So you're going to peel off the thyroid layer, and maybe there's insulin resistance underneath it. And you clear up the insulin resistance, and maybe there's a stress issue underneath it. You clear up the stress issue, well, maybe there's a genetic issue underneath that, and you need super supplementation. Then you clear that up. And then, so peeling back those layers one at a time, I would encourage you to do, because there's no one straight shot with hormones, right? And the really sucky thing is once you fix them, something changes, right? You ovulate, you start your period, you get stressed out, something happens, or you don't sleep that well, and that affects your entire cycle. So it's a game. It's a long-term game that we have to play, but it's definitely something that you can start picking those layers apart. Okay, so let's talk. I have a few things on how to, it says reverse PCOS, but again, let's say manage and play with and peel back those layers, because the first thing is pharmacological aids. So taking something like metformin, OCP, spironolactone, those can help manage PCOS symptoms, but again, at some point you're going to have to go off of them. So in the meantime, short term, getting the body balanced with prescriptions will really help, and then getting off of them under the guidance of your prescribing physician and leading into more of the lifestyle choices will help the most. So with nutrition is the second piece. That is the main focus of PCOS. That, and really any hormones issues, because nutritional deficiencies are the biggest issue that women face, especially with hormones. Stabilizing the blood sugar will be super important, because you're not going to have those up and downs. Your body's going to get rid of the inflammation. You're going to feel better, and your hormones are going to actually have a really good base to work off of. Instead of McDonald's, it's going to have like avocados and chicken. It's going to make a huge difference in your hormones. Minimizing fast food and minimizing eating out really is so important. And I know that's the hardest thing to do, because we all struggle with it, right? We all have those cravings. We all get frustrated that we're not making really fast progress. But I will tell you what, I can tell you my personal journey with my hormones and getting in with a dietitian that I love and trust has completely took off the rest of my hormone issues. So I used to be lay on the couch for 7 days like a vampire, just bleeding out completely. Once I got through my doTERRA program that I have and using the oils, that cut my cycle down to 3 days, and I was just having a few leftover issues. I work with an acupuncturist. I do a few homeopathics that are really helpful. And then cleaning up my diet, again, biggest thing. If you want to get rid of cramps, you got to clean up your diet. If you want to get rid of clotting, you have to clean up your diet. And that's hard to hear, but I'm here with you. I love you. We can do it together. We have to make a plan to clean up your diet. Get rid of that inflammation so your body will just go. Because if I told you right now that you can have a period without cramps, without clotting, without bleeding to death, you would think I was the craziest person on the world, right? But it's true. You can have that. It's amazing. So exercise is another really important part of managing PCOS because your sugar, 85% of your sugar goes to skeletal muscle. So when you're doing resistance training, when you're doing that HIIT training, the high intensity training, that's going to help your body regulate insulin. It's going to help turn on your brain to regulate insulin and your hormones better. So movement, little weights, get 2 pounds, 3 pounds, 5-pounders. I work with a Beachbody coach who's amazing. So if you're not local to St. Louis, we can get you set up with someone who knows exactly what program would help you, and I'll walk you through that. I can help you set up a personalized program, and then I have awesome trainers in St. Louis who go to your house. I have trainers that do functional assessments on you, so if you're in pain and you don't want to and you have excuses, we can fix them. So I have a solution for exercise for everyone. You just have to let me know where you are and what you need, and we'll get you taken care of. Yes, people who will come to your house for essentially the same price. Ladies, they're amazing. So no excuses, okay? And then a few supplements that I recommend. Things like chromium is really important because that will help balance your blood sugar. It helps balance your pancreas. Super, super, super important. I have a supplement called Simplex F, which is a combination for the entire endocrine system because most of the time our brain needs to support. So it has support for the pituitary, it has thyroid support, it has ovary and adrenal support. So you're hitting that entire endocrine system with basically what it is. It's a DNA blueprint of your organs. So as your body's rebuilding itself, you get those supplements. Digestive enzymes will help break down your food, true. And a lot of people think, well, I don't need those. I don't have acid reflux or constipation, diarrhea issues. But the reason I really love everybody to take enzymes is because we don't eat perfect. Our body doesn't know how to break down all of these chemicals. And that is also what is spiking our blood sugar. So if you can give your pancreas some additional support through lipase, protease, I'm trying to think, anything that ends in ASE is an enzyme, and it will help break down your food, which means your body will absorb more nutrition, because if your nutrition is lacking and you know you have deficiencies and you're super tired all of the time, your body's not getting the right foods. And even if your diet's perfect, if you don't have the stomach acid to break it down, or you don't have the good bacteria to break it down, then your body can't get anything. There's no building blocks there. So enzymes are a really, really great place to start. And liver support. So something like milk thistle, berberine, yarrow is another great herb, because again, your liver is taking those hormones and conjugating them and breaking them down. So if your liver gets backed up, say you had a few beers tonight or a glass of wine, it just stops that process of other hormones. So we have to get your liver cleared out and detoxing, and that's why we always talk about detox programs first, because it's the basis of our hormone program. And then essential oils. I use the Women's Monthly Blend from doTERRA. I strongly recommend using it about 3 times a day on your hips. So from hip bone to hip bone, swipe it across 2 or 3 times, wipe it down. So when you're normal, everyday hormones are functioning great, you just need a little bit of support, once a day is fine. When you're having more significant issues that need hormonal support, you want to use it about 3 times a day. So keep one in your bathroom, keep one in your car, keep one in your desk. So you're doing it about 3 times a day. If you don't like the smell of it, you can put it on your feet, put your socks on and go to work so you won't be the stinky kid in class. But the more that you can get it on and more consistently, the better off your hormone cycles will be, because the Clary Calm, all of those oils that are in there support the entire endocrine system. There is brain support, for mood support, for thyroid support, for ovary support. Everything is in there that you need to get your hormones regulated. And then Clary Sage is the single oil, and that really does help women who are not cycling to start their cycle. So if you feel it coming on and nothing's happening because that testosterone is just like choke holding everything, a little bit of Clary Sage and frankincense will take you miles closer to where you want to be. So that is pretty much the basic raw bones of my PCOS talk for the evening, and I really appreciate you tuning in. I do have a PCOS program that I have that's available. I'm going to do a big launch with it on Friday, because you're not alone with this. You're not alone in your hormone support. We're here to help you. This is not a sentence. It's not a curse. You don't have to avoid your friends anymore. We're able to help you. So if you don't want to wait till Friday, shoot me a message and I can shoot you what I have right now and we could talk about it and see if it works for you. Otherwise, I'm doing $50 off my initial consultation, so that way you can get the help that you need. My scheduling is all online too at littleblackbagmedicine.com. So if you want to check out my schedule and see when you can fit yourself in, I would be honored to support you in this journey as we peel back those onion layers. So thank you again for tuning in. And if you have any questions, post a comment or message me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right. Thanks everybody. Have a good night.